clutch your sides with your elbows and visualize your elbows being attached to your body.
Right there. Did you hear it?
Visualize your elbows being attached to your body.
That was Ben Hogan, perhaps golf's best ever ball striker, explaining how to make a golf swing. Well, the basics of a golf swing. It was part of a series of Hogan's instruction ideas that caused a sensation in the golf world. Some of it was really good advice, but the key part of Hogan's secret, the thing that worked so well for him, actually backfired on lots of other golfers. Many golfers, they wanted to learn about Hogan so much that they learned the wrong lessons from Hogan's teaching. And in the process, some well-meaning advice helped create a generation of slicers. Let's break down why. So to understand how Ben Hogan developed this golf swing secret, we have to understand where he came from. Ben Hogan grew up an undersized kid, a caddy who was constantly surrounded by kids who were a lot taller and bigger and stronger than he was. But Ben Hogan loved golf, and he was really competitive, so he needed to figure out a way to keep up with them. So to keep up, young Ben Hogan developed what can only really be described as a long drive swing. He had a really long backswing and a huge weight shift and a really strong grip, and there's this famous description from Byron Nelson, who grew up with Hogan, that said he would just hit these high, hard hooks that would land really hot and just roll forever. That's how Ben Hogan figured out a way to keep up with everybody else around him. And even though it was kind of wild, let's be clear, this actually worked for Ben Hogan. It brought Ben Hogan into professional golf and all the way to the PGA Tour. But along the way, Ben Hogan realized that he couldn't win majors this way. It was too wild and inconsistent. He needed something more reliable. He needed to learn how to hit a nice, soft fade. That sent Hogan down this rabbit hole where he was trying to do everything to avoid hitting this high, hard hook that he had spent years developing. So he started rolling the club face open on the takeaway and cupping his left wrist on the backswing, and it kind of worked. His draw turned into less of a draw, but it was still moving right to left and he was still prone to an hook. And so out of desperation, Hogan began experimenting with something kind of radical. He started changing his grip. Pro golfers, they hate changing their grips, but Hogan decided to do it. He weakened both hands, which means he turned both of his hands more towards the target. His left thumb, rather than being on the backside of his grip, was now running more down the grip. And his right palm, instead of being on the side of the grip, was now more on top of the grip. This was the key change. It truly is what made everything work, and it's hard to understate how weird and unconventional this was at the time. Golf grips used to be really small, and it naturally put golfers' hands into more of a strong position where their hands were more on the side of the club. It's why when you look at all of Ben Hogan's idols, guys like Bobby Jones and Gene Sarazen, they all had really strong grip, and anytime they were asked about it, they said this was a really good thing, that you should grip the club strong, you should keep the grip in your fingers, and that you should use as much hands and wrists as you possibly could. And so when Ben Hogan came along and decided to weaken his grip while using lots of hands and arms, it was confusing to a lot of golfers, and again, really unconventional, because what this did is that for Hogan, it paired 3 different slice moves together. It moved his hands into a weaker position, which naturally opens the club face. He rolled the club face open on the backswing, that opened the club face even more, and he kept that left wrist cupped at the top of his backswing. That's 3 different moves that keep the club face open. But these 3 different slice moves worked for Ben Hogan so well because he was double jointed in both his thumbs. His thumbs could touch his forearms, so he could torque the club incredibly aggressively on the downswing. That's how he got so much lag. And when he did that, that would close the club face. So he needed to add in all these different slice moves in order to counteract how good he was at closing the club face, once he learned to grip it this way, in addition to the other stuff that he did, that meant that as he closed the club face through, he wasn't closing the club face so much that it would shut. He was releasing it, so now it was landing it square around impact. And that's why, after Hogan discovered this, that he would talk about it giving him a feeling of having 3 right hands, that all of a sudden he could release the club as hard as he possibly could, and he knew that his ball wouldn't go left. And this change, this grip change, sparked new life into Ben Hogan's career. All of a sudden, a good tour player became a legendary one, a great one. He won 9 majors in just 7 years and almost won the Grand Slam in 1953. His navigating fade had all of a sudden transformed him into the most dominant player in all of golf. And because there was this transformative feeling about Ben Hogan's game, this guy who was a professional golfer for 20 years and then all of a sudden figured something out and won 9 majors, people started to wonder, had this guy actually figured out the golf swing? So just 2 years after his near Grand Slam year, Life magazine announced that for the first time ever, they were revealing Ben Hogan's golf swing secret. And this caused a sensation. People were so excited, and again, it's hard to understate how curious the entire golf world was about this. And in the article itself, it was all the stuff that Ben Hogan had figured out over the past few years. The weaker grip, the rolling of the club face open on the backswing, and the cupping of the left wrist at the top of his swing. And this is where things go wrong, because naturally golfers started trying Ben Hogan's secret. But because they didn't swing the golf club like Ben Hogan, they didn't see those same results. They didn't turn into one of the best ball strikers in all of golf. Instead, they started hitting slices. And this actually prompted a whole swathe of conspiracy theories. People wondering, did Ben Hogan actually reveal his true secret? What wasn't he telling us? And for years and years, up until this day in some cases, there were all these follow-up articles explaining what Ben Hogan didn't tell us, what his true secret was, what the rest of us should learn to make it all make sense. But the thing is, Hogan did reveal his secret. But that's the thing, it was Hogan's secret. It was unusual, but it worked for him, for a variety of reasons that actually really make sense. And that's the one thing above all else that golfers should learn from all this. The lesson here isn't to literally copy Ben Hogan's secret, but to learn how Hogan discovered his secret and how you can discover yours. It's to use the same tools that he did, to understand that your hands control the club face, so adjust your grip to what your body needs. That the golf swing itself is ultimately just a big turn back with your body and a big turn through. Your arms should move with your body, but ultimately, it's always your hands that control the club. Remember that as you search for your own golf swing secret, which is where Hogan said it was all along. It's waiting for you in the dirt.
Isn't that simple?